The story kicks off in Riverdale, a small, sleepy town where everyone knows a little too much about each other. On the morning of July 4th, everything changes. News spreads fast. Jason, a local teen, is missing. His twin sister Cheryl is found by the river, completely shattered. She tells the police that she and Jason went out on a boat that day. In the middle of their ride, she dropped something, and when Jason leaned over to get it, the boat flipped. Cheryl swam to shore, but Jason vanished. No one's seen him since. The police drag the river, searching for Jason's body for days. Nothing. His family, the richest in town, ends up holding a funeral without a body. No one can explain what happened, and the whole place is buzzing with questions. Then, out of nowhere, a glamorous girl named Veronica strolls into town with her mom, Hermione. They've just left New York, and you get the sense they're running from something. Turns out, Veronica's dad landed in prison for forgery, so Hermione brought her daughter back to her own hometown, hoping for a fresh start. Meanwhile, Betty, a sweet, smart girl, heads out to see her friend Archie. It's obvious she likes him, but she's way too nervous to say anything. While they're talking, Veronica walks up and introduces herself. Right away, the three of them click. Veronica's their age and will be going to the same high school. Suddenly, it's the first day of the new school year. Betty's mom, Alice, barges into her room, telling her to focus on school and avoid the mistakes her older sister Polly made. We find out Polly and Jason used to date, but Jason broke her heart and left her so messed up she now lives in a care facility. Alice blames Jason and his family for everything, and she's not shy about wanting payback. She also warns Betty to steer clear of Archie, convinced that boys only bring trouble. Betty doesn't buy it, but she doesn't want to fight with her mom either. At school, Betty shows Veronica around and introduces her to Kevin, their hilarious and loyal friend. Kevin mentions the big back-to-school party, but everyone's unsure if it'll actually happen since Jason's death still hangs over the school. Later, the students gather in the auditorium. Cheryl stands up and gives this emotional speech about her brother, insisting the party shouldn't be canceled. Jason wouldn't want everyone to mope around. The crowd moves outside to eat together, and Veronica, Betty, Kevin, and Archie end up at the same table. Veronica's clearly intrigued by Archie. He's charming, talented, and writes his own music. She tries to hide it though, especially once she notices Betty's feelings and gets a little jealous. Archie heads off to football practice. As soon as he's gone, Cheryl sits down with the girls. She says she wanted to meet Veronica and hear how she's finding Riverdale. Cheryl brags about being captain of the cheer squad and suggests Veronica should try out. After she leaves, Betty confides that she tried out last year, but Cheryl humiliated her and called her overweight. It's obvious Cheryl loves her power and isn't afraid to use it to put others down. Veronica, unfazed, decides to help Betty train so they can both audition and show Cheryl up. Meanwhile, Archie sneaks off to the music room to see Ms. Grundy, the music teacher. Turns out they've got a secret relationship, which is totally illegal since Archie's underage. If anyone finds out, Ms. Grundy could go to jail. On top of that, they were both by the river on July 4th and heard a gunshot, but they kept quiet, scared the truth would reveal their secret. Now Archie's racked with guilt, wondering if that gunshot has something to do with Jason's disappearance, and he can't shake the feeling that he needs to come clean. M. Grundy steps in and tells him straight up, if he talks, she'll end up in prison. The next day, Veronica nails the cheerleading tryouts, but Betty gets rejected again just because she's not skinny enough. That really sets Veronica off. She decides she's done playing nice, walks right up to Cheryl and calls her out. No one ever stood up to Cheryl like that before. She's caught off guard, embarrassed, and finally has to let both girls onto the team. Later, Betty asks Veronica why she stuck her neck out like that. Veronica opens up. Back in New York, she used to act just like Cheryl, thinking she was better than everyone else. But after her dad's scandal, everything changed. She wanted to become a better person. Betty, feeling comfortable, shares her own story about her sister Polly and Jason, and how it's the real reason Cheryl's always so cruel to her. The two keep talking, and suddenly they're close, like they've known each other for years instead of days. The next day rolls around, and it's time for the school's back-to-school party. In the middle of it all, Betty notices Veronica watching Archie with a little too much interest. It stings, so Betty leaves. Veronica's crushed. She goes to Archie and tells him honestly, Betty matters to me, I don't want to hurt her. So she decides to back off, even if it means hiding her own feelings for Archie. Meanwhile, Archie goes over to Betty's house to apologize. Betty says she's not mad, she just wants the truth about how he feels. Archie gets awkward and finally admits he only sees her as a friend, nothing more. Betty's hurt, of course, but she thanks him for being honest. Later that night, Kevin's walking by the river with a friend when they stumble across Jason's body. He's been shot in the forehead. The whole town freaks out. Suddenly everyone's scared, there's a killer out there and no one knows who it is. Archie can't handle the guilt, so he sneaks out to see Miss Grundy. He wants to report what he heard the day Jason died, but Miss Grundy talks him out of it, saying their story won't help since they don't know who pulled the trigger. The next day, Betty surprises Archie at his house so they can walk to school together. She tells him she ignored his calls after the party because she needed time to think. But now, she's over it and they agree to go back to being friends. That same day, Veronica brings Betty flowers to apologize. Betty, being Betty, forgives her right away, doesn't even want to talk about it. Meanwhile, Cheryl's friends start questioning her. How did Jason end up with a gunshot wound if Cheryl said he drowned? They're suspicious, especially since Cheryl doesn't act like someone grieving a brother. Cheryl insists Jason fell from the boat and guesses he reached the other side where someone was waiting and killed him. Later, Archie plays his new song for the group. Everyone enjoys it except Betty. She remembers Archie's words about just being friends and breaks down. Archie tries to comfort her, but it doesn't help. Not long after, the principal calls Archie in for a talk. He's noticed Archie's been acting strange and thinks he might know something about Jason's murder. He urges Archie to spill before the police find out themselves. Archie panics and hurries to Miss Grundy, telling her everything. While they're talking, Jughead sees them together and realizes they're more than just teacher and student. That same day, Betty's still stinging from Veronica's earlier actions, so she pulls away, leaving Veronica by herself and trying to get closer to Cheryl instead. Later that night, Cheryl shows up at Betty's house. During their talk, Cheryl accuses Betty's family of having something to do with Jason's death, thinks it's payback for what happened to Polly. Betty loses it and kicks Cheryl out. That night, Archie comes home and finds Jughead waiting for him outside, ready to talk. Jughead corners Archie and tells him straight up he saw him with Ms. Grundy and knows something up. Archie just cracks under the pressure and spills everything. He and Ms. Grundy are together and they were by the river on July 4th. Jughead's furious. He tells Archie he needs to go to the police before someone else outs him for keeping secrets. The next day, chaos breaks out at school. There's a fight and Archie gets punched in the eye. Meanwhile, Betty tries to fix things with Veronica. She owns up to how she treated her and apologizes. They agree to meet up that night after school. When they finally talk, they decide nothing and no one is going to get in the way of their friendship. They're in this together. Then in the middle of class the next day, everything flips. The cops arrest Cheryl and drag her out for questioning. Turns out the forensic report just dropped a bombshell. Jason didn't die on July 4th. Someone shot him a week later, so the police call Cheryl back in and push her for answers. She's nervous and finally confesses she lied. She and Jason never took a boat ride. Jason wanted to run away and start over, but he was scared his family wouldn't let him, so Cheryl helped him fake his death. The plan was for her to tell everyone he fell from the boat and drowned, but in reality she helped him get across the river so he could escape. He promised to contact her once he was safe. Around that time she remembers hearing a gunshot, but she had no idea where it came from. She waited for Jason's call, but it never came. Eventually, she heard the police found his body in the river. When the investigator asks why Jason wanted to leave, Cheryl clams up. The cop definitely suspects her but can't hold her, there's no proof. After all this, Archie decides he can't take it anymore and confesses that he was at the river on July 4th and heard a gunshot. When the investigator asks what he was doing there, Archie gets nervous and says he just needed some peace and quiet to write music. He refuses to mention Ms. Grundy, determined to protect her. That same day, Betty finds out Jughead's writing a novel about Jason's death. She asks him to team up with her on an article for the school newspaper. Betty's obsessed with the stories that come out of that paper, but now she's also on a mission to figure out who killed Jason and what really happened. They plan to talk to Dilton, the scout leader whose group found Cheryl by the river that day. Meanwhile, Archie's dad, Fred, figures out his son lied about what happened on July 4th. He grounds Archie for 2 weeks, no going out after school. That night, Veronica goes out with Chuck, a popular guy from school. He seems nice enough at first, but the next day Veronica's blindsided when Chuck posts sensitive photos of her all over the place. Now the whole school gossiping about her. Furious, Veronica confronts him. Chuck just laughs it off. He's the athlete's son after all and doesn't think anyone can touch him. He mocks Veronica in front of everyone and refuses to take down the photos. Betty can't stand seeing her friend hurt. She starts digging and finds out Chuck's pulled the same stunt on other girls. She gets them together and one explains how Chuck and his buddies keep a notebook in the locker room, listing girls' names beside each boy. Each guy is supposed to harass his assigned girl to score points, and whoever racks up the most wins some twisted prize. This whole thing was Chuck's idea, the girl says, and insists they need to show the notebook to the principal to stop him. Betty and Veronica decide they're done playing nice. They lure Chuck out one night, spike his drink, and when he's out of it, they tie him up and get a video confession out of him. The next day, they hand the video to the principal. Chuck's off the team, finally got what he deserved. Later, Jughead and Betty track down Dilton. Dilton admits he was at the river the day everything went down. He even fired a gun but swears he was just practicing. He also mentions seeing Ms. Grundy's car parked nearby. Betty's ears perk up. She knows Archie was there too. Now she's got a bad feeling something's up between Archie and Miss Grundy. She can't let it go, so that night Betty goes to Archie's place and lays it all out. Cornered, Archie finally cracks. He confesses he's in love with Miss Grundy and they're together. Betty's instantly worried. Miss Grundy is way older and honestly nobody really knows anything about her. The next day, Betty digs deeper. She tells Archie she looked into Miss Grundy's background. Turns out she only showed up in Riverdale recently. Before that, nothing. No one in town knows a thing about her. Archie doesn't want to hear it. He's convinced Miss Grundy loves him and is a good person. Betty isn't buying it. She ropes Veronica into a little sleuthing and the two of them break into Miss Grundy's car. What they find is wild. An ID card with a totally different name, Jennifer, and a gun stashed in the car. They rush to tell Archie and now he's not so sure either. Archie confronts Miss Grundy with what he knows. She admits her real name is Jennifer and shares her story. She was married to an abusive man, finally escaped, changed her name, and came to Riverdale to start over. Archie feels for her and apologizes for doubting her. Meanwhile, Alice is cleaning Betty's room and stumbles on the gun Betty took from Miss Grundy's bag. Worried, she keeps searching until she finds Betty's diary. Everything about Archie and Miss Grundy is right there in Betty's handwriting. That night, Archie's with Miss Grundy at her place when suddenly Fred, Alice, and Betty show up. Alice has spilled everything and wants to call the cops. She's ready to accuse Miss Grundy of preying on underage boys. Archie tries to defend her, but it's no use. Alice won't back down. For the first time, Betty stands up to her mom. She threatens that if Alice reports Miss Grundy, she'll confess to breaking into Grundy's car. After a heated argument, Miss Grundy decides to leave town if they agree not to go to the police. She packs up and disappears. With all that behind him, Archie throws himself into training. The school's picking a new football captain and whoever gets the spot will win a scholarship, freedom to study whatever they want. Archie dreams of music, so he's all in, training non-stop to make sure the coach can't ignore him. While Archie's focused on football, things heat up in the murder investigation. Someone steals all the evidence about Jason's murder from Sheriff Keller's house. The cops are sure the thief is Jason's killer. At the same time, Hermione finds herself working as a waitress at the local diner. It's a blow to her pride. She used to be a respected businesswoman, but after her husband's scandal, she'll take whatever work she can get to support herself and Veronica. Fred notices her, and he's suddenly a regular at the diner. One day at school, Cheryl walks up to the group and hands out invitations to Jason's funeral. She says the service will be at their family mansion, with Jason buried in the family plot right there on the grounds. Veronica feels for Cheryl. It's been a rough road for her. She reaches out, tries to comfort Cheryl, and they start to mend things. Underneath it all, Cheryl's not really mean. She acts tough because she thinks everyone hates her and uses that as armor. Cheryl seizes the moment and invites Veronica to spend a day at the mansion with her and her family. Later that night, Betty meets a young guy named Trev who used to be friends with Jason. She tries to get him to open up, hoping to find out more about Jason. Trev finally tells her that Jason was different near the end, really different. Turns out he'd been secretly dealing drugs behind his family's back. After hearing this, Betty finally gets up the nerve to talk to her dad, Howell. She asks why they never let her visit Polly at the institution and why nobody talks about her at home. The question rattles Howell. He tells Betty that Polly's mental health had gotten so bad at home she tried to take her own life. Things had started getting better at the institution, but when Polly learned about Jason's death, she spiraled again. That's why they kept Betty away. They were scared a visit would break Polly all over again. Betty's shaken by all of this. She feels for her sister, maybe more than ever. The next day, she tells Jughead everything. They decide to wait for Jason's funeral, figuring it's the best shot they'll get to sneak into his room and look for answers. Meanwhile, Archie hears that Casello, a famous songwriter, is in Riverdale. Archie, all hopeful, goes to meet him and share his songs, but Casello shoots him down, tells him his work is amateur at best and not worth his time. Archie's crushed. He starts wondering if Ms. Grundy only complimented him to be nice, not because he's actually talented. That night, Veronica visits Cheryl at her home just like they'd planned. She sits down with Cheryl's family, her mom, Penelope, her dad, Clifford, and her grandmother, Rose. Dinner is tense. Penelope treats Cheryl horribly, even blaming her for Jason's death. It's obvious Cheryl can't stand her family and wants to get out any way she can. Across town, Hermione is alone at the diner when she finds a box on the counter. Inside, a huge snake. She's terrified. She calls Fred for help and refuses to call the police. She knows exactly who sent it. Hermione tells Fred her husband, Hiram, had shady business in Riverdale and now those people want their money. The snake is a warning. The day of Jason's funeral finally comes. Everyone is stunned when Cheryl shows up in a white dress, the same one she wore the day Jason died. During the service, Cheryl breaks down while giving her speech. Veronica rushes to her side. In the chaos, Jughead and Betty slip upstairs to Jason's room. But when they get there, they find Grandma Rose already inside. She mistakes Betty for Polly because they look so much alike. During their talk, Rose lets it slip. Polly and Jason were engaged. She'd hoped they'd get married. Later that night, Betty confronts her dad with what she's learned. Hal admits it. Polly and Jason were engaged, but their relationship couldn't last. Turns out there's bad blood between the families. Jason's grandfather once killed Betty's grandfather. That old feud hasn't faded. Hearing this, Betty starts to wonder if her dad had something to do with Jason's death. She shares her suspicions with Jughead and they agree to keep digging. The next day, the coach calls Archie and Reggie in. He's been watching them, trying to decide who should be team captain. He picks Archie, but Archie surprises everyone. He turns it down, says Reggie deserves it more. Archie explains that his heart in music, not football. And the team needs a captain who's all in. Reggie's thrilled and takes the spot. One day, Betty goes through her mom's bag and finds the address of the institution where Polly's staying. She grabs Jughead and they head over. When they get there, Betty is stunned. Polly's pregnant with Jason's child. That's the secret her parents were hiding. Polly opens up, telling Betty the truth. Jason wasn't the villain everyone makes him out to be. When she found out she was pregnant, she told Jason right away. They were happy and they made a plan to run away together and start over somewhere new. July 4th, that was the day they were supposed to run away. Jason had stashed a car on the far side of the river and sat there waiting for Polly. They'd planned everything. But then it all fell apart. Polly's parents found out and sent nurses to drag her away, locking her up in the institution. The worst part, Polly didn't see any of it coming. She believed Jason was still out there, just waiting, probably panicked and wondering where she was. Betty couldn't take it. She finally told Polly the truth. Jason was dead. The news hit Polly like a punch to the gut. She collapsed screaming. The supervisor rushed in, called Alice for backup, and they hauled Polly off to her room, locking the door behind her. Alice was furious with Betty for sneaking in and dragged her home. Once they got there, Betty cornered her parents. She told them she didn't trust them anymore and even accused them of having something to do with Jason's death. Her parents blew up at her, swearing they had nothing to do with it. Alice just kept insisting not to listen to Polly, saying she was unstable and her mind was messed up by everything that had happened. Betty wasn't buying it. She decided to go down to the river herself. If Jason's car was still parked there, it would prove Polly was telling the truth. And that same day, Archie had his own battles. He'd signed up to audition for the Riverdale talent competition, but as soon as rehearsals started, nerves got the best of him. He just couldn't sing. Veronica tried to help, offering to perform with him for support. Meanwhile, the Pussycats' three girls tight band were falling apart. Two of them got into a fight and Valerie stormed out. By pure luck, she ran into Archie practicing alone, sat down with him, and ended up agreeing to perform together. Of course, Veronica didn't take that well. She felt replaced and, in a fit of jealousy, joined the Pussycats just to get back at Archie. Elsewhere, Hermione showed up with a stack of paperwork. She told Veronica that her father, Hiram, owned land in Riverdale and she'd picked Fred's construction company to develop it. All she needed was Veronica's signature. But Veronica saw right through her. She knew her mom and Fred had feelings for each other, and she hated the idea of her family falling apart once her dad got out of prison. She refused to sign anything. Hermione didn't care. She forged her daughter's signature and handed the project to Fred anyway. Back with Archie, he realized Valerie wasn't happy. He talked to her, told her she belonged with the Pussycats, and helped her find her way back. On the night of the competition, Valerie was back on stage with her band, happier than ever. Archie, for the first time, stood alone under the lights, heart pounding. He sang and blew everyone away. At the same time, Betty and Jughead went down to the river. They found a car, but inside, instead of answers, they stumbled onto a stash of drugs. They ran to tell Sheriff Keller, but when they came back, the car was already up in flames. Someone had been watching. Someone wanted the evidence gone. Almost right after, news broke that Polly had escaped from the institution. She'd vanished. The whole town buzzed with rumors. Jason's family immediately pointed the finger at Polly, convinced she'd killed Jason, and started hunting her down. Betty, her friends, and her family searched everywhere. Then Betty remembered something Polly once hid in their basement after a fight with their mom. so she crept down there and sure enough found Polly huddled in the dark. Polly was desperate. Her parents planned to put her baby up for adoption and she just wanted out. Betty promised to help her to find her somewhere safe. Soon, Jason's family learned Polly was pregnant with Jason's child. That changed everything. They sat Betty down and insisted they wanted to help Polly now to support her and the baby. They even offered her money and a place to stay. Betty wanted to believe them, so that night she brought Polly to meet them. Polly finally gets a chance to meet Cheryl's family, but things don't go as planned. Cheryl shows up before everyone else and pulls Polly aside. She's frantic, warning her that their parents are lying and setting a trap. Revenge, plain and simple. Cheryl's convinced that if her parents get their hands on Polly, she won't make it out alive. Betty hears all of this and panic hits her hard. She spends the whole night worrying and in the end, she and Polly agree it's too risky to stay. They sneak Polly over to Veronica's house. Hermione greets her at the door, gives her a big hug and promises she's safe there. The next day, Sheriff Keller starts digging into old records and finds out Jughead had a string of incidents years ago. Turns out, Jughead was an angry kid with a rocky past, especially with Jason. Suddenly, Jughead is a suspect. The police start poking around, convinced he's mixed up in the crime. Jughead flat out denies everything. Meanwhile, we see why he's so angry. His dad, FP, is a mess. He drinks non-stop, barely leaves the house, and doesn't take responsibility for anything. No wonder Jughead's always on edge. Fred sees what's happening and steps in. He lies to the sheriff, saying Jughead was working for him at a construction site the day Jason died. Fred even fakes the paperwork to back up the story. He does it because he used to be friends with FP and he can't stand watching Jughead's family fall apart. The sheriff buys it and lets Jughead go. Outside the station, FP shows up looking rough. He apologizes to Jughead, says he knows he's been a terrible father and promises he'll try to change. Then Fred stumbles into another mess. He finds out the land he's working on is tangled up in a legal fight, and Clifford, Jason's dad, has been after it for years. Clifford doesn't play fair. He bribes Fred's workers, lures them away with promises of better pay, and does everything he can to ruin the business. Fred's confused, especially since the land, owned by someone anonymous. In the middle of all this, Fred talks Hermione into leaving her diner job to handle the company's finances. Archie, meanwhile, discovers the company on the edge of bankruptcy. He rounds up his friends to help out at the site just to keep things afloat. Then, out of nowhere, a bunch of thugs attack them while they're working. One of the guys gets beaten up. Fred realizes these are Clifford's men. Fired up, Archie takes his friends to the local dive where all the town's criminals hang out. He's stunned to see FP, Jughead's dad, there. Archie feels betrayed and confronts Jughead for keeping this secret. Jughead drags Betty with him to confront FP directly. They ask him straight up if he had anything to do with Jason's death. FP swears he didn't. He admits Jason bought drugs from them once, hoping to get enough cash to leave town, but insists that was the only time. After that, they never saw Jason again. Amidst all this chaos, Polly agrees to have a baby shower, a chance she hopes to bring both families together and maybe heal some wounds. During the party, Penelope invites Polly to move into their mansion, promising she'll be safe and cared for. Alice loses it, yelling that she'll never let her daughter live with them. The fight explodes in front of everyone. Polly breaks down, accusing both families of being so stubborn and hateful that they're the real reason Jason's dead. She blurts out that if they'd just let go of the past, she and Jason could have run away and found happiness. Then Polly drops a bomb. Before everything went wrong, her dad, Hal, tried to force her to have an abortion. That's why she refuses to go home. Alice is horrified, confronts Hal and kicks him out of the house. Even after all that, Polly won't go back. She chooses to move into the Blossom Mansion. Later, Cheryl catches Archie off guard and asks him to come to a party at the mansion and pretend to be her boyfriend. She admits she's lonely and just wants someone there with her. Archie gently turns her down, but that's not the end. Penelope herself seeks him out. She tells him a relative of theirs runs a prestigious music academy in the city. If Archie goes to the party with her daughter, she'll help him get in. Archie can't help but be tempted, so he agrees. At the party, Archie uses the chance to pull Polly aside for a private talk. He tells her family been worried sick, especially since she hasn't reached out once since she left. Polly insists she's okay, but she confesses something else. She suspects Jason's family played a part in his death. That's why she's moved in with them. She wants to get close and figure out the truth about who these people really are. After that, Archie notices Cheryl coming onto him in every way possible. It makes his skin crawl. He decides to leave, even if it means sacrificing his shot at the music academy. On his way out, he overhears Cheryl's parents talking, and just like that, he realizes they're the ones who got Veronica's dad thrown in prison. The news hits him like a punch. The next day, Alice gears up to publish an exposé about Jason's family in the newspaper. But Hal, her husband and the paper's owner, shuts her down and fires her, partly out of spite since she kicked him out of the house. Furious, Alice smashes the glass in his office and storms out. Later, Betty suggests her mom join the school newspaper instead, where she'd have the freedom to write whatever she wants. Secretly, Betty just wants to help Alice, who's been falling apart since Polly disappeared. After a lot of fighting, Alice gives in and agrees. Meanwhile, Hermione shows up at Fred's office. She admits the mysterious buyer of the land is actually her husband Hiram. He bought it recently, and she's terrified Jason's family will find out, since they're desperate for that land and probably willing to do anything to get it. Fred's mad she kept this from him, but eventually he agrees to keep working on the project if he gets paid more. Not long after, Fred says goodbye to Archie. He's heading out to meet Mary, Archie's mom, so they can finalize their divorce. Archie is crushed. He wishes his parents could find a way back to each other, but there's nothing he can do. Then Jughead's birthday comes around. Betty decides to throw him a surprise party at Archie's house since Fred's away. She calls their friends and even invites FP, Jughead's dad. Jughead is stunned. No one's ever thrown him a party before. He tries to play it cool, but he's not exactly happy. Things go sideways fast. Cheryl and Chuck show up, dragging a crowd of students with them. It's obvious they're here to cause trouble. Soon, Jughead gets overwhelmed and tries to leave. Cheryl blocks him and makes everyone play a cruel game. Everyone has to spill a secret about someone else. Cheryl and Chuck use the game to expose Veronica and spill the truth about her father for everyone to hear. Then they bring up Archie's thing with Miss Grundy, and even start revealing Betty's personal secrets. It all blows up into a full-on fight between Archie and Chuck until FP steps in and tosses Chuck out. The party's wrecked, everyone leaves. Later, Jughead and Betty sit together at a cafe. Jughead opens up. He grew up in a broken home, never had a birthday party, and always felt like he didn't matter. That's why he panics in crowds and tries to avoid attention. Betty gets it. She apologizes and tells him she just wanted to do something nice. Meanwhile, Archie and Veronica grow closer and decide to make it official. The next morning, Archie's surprised to find his mom, Mary, at the house. She's staying for a few days. He learns his parents' divorce is final, and she just wanted to check on him before heading back home. At the same time, Veronica hears from her lawyer that her father's in deep legal trouble. If she testifies in court that he was a good father, it could help him. Veronica hesitates. She knows now how many people he's hurt. But after thinking it over, she chooses to tell the truth. Her father was good to her, and she never saw his darker side. A few days go by, and suddenly there's a big school event. By now, Veronica's starting to get this gnawing feeling that her dad might actually be mixed up in Jason's death, especially after she finds out that Jason's family were the ones who got her father thrown in jail. The idea sticks in her mind. Maybe her dad called up FP and told him to get rid of Jason. Alice latches onto this theory too. She's all in, ready to help Veronica dig up the truth. Betty, on the other hand, wants nothing to do with it. She's talked to Jughead and he swears his dad would never do something like that. But Alice has her mind made up. She invites Jughead and FP over for dinner while Veronica hatches a plan to sneak into FP's house and look for evidence without telling Betty because she knows Betty would freak out. Veronica ropes Archie into joining her. They search FP's place more than once, turning the place upside down, but come up empty. No evidence, nothing suspicious. Both of them start to relax. Maybe they were wrong about FP after all. But then, right in the middle of dinner, Betty finds out what Archie and Veronica did. She's furious and they get into a heated argument. Jughead overhears everything. He's crushed that his friends doubted his dad and snuck around behind his back. That's when the news breaks. The police just searched FP's house and found a gun, the same kind used to kill Jason. They arrest FP on the spot and the whole thing blows up. Jughead completely falls apart. He locks himself away, can't stop crying, and won't talk to anyone. Archie and Veronica can't figure out how the cops found a gun they didn't see. It starts to dawn on them. Someone must have planted it to frame FP. They grab Betty and search everywhere for Jughead. They finally find him at a bar looking totally defeated. He tells them he tried to reach out to his mom, hoping to stay with her, but she shut him down and made him feel even worse. His friends do their best to comfort him, and Archie tells Jughead they know FP's innocent. Someone's trying to set him up. Meanwhile, the police start interrogating FP, and then comes the twist. He confesses. He says Jason came to him asking for help to run away with Polly and needing money. FP agreed to give him a shipment of drugs to smuggle for cash. But at the last second, FP got suspicious. Jason's family is rich, so why didn't he just ask his parents for help? That's when FP decided to kidnap Jason by the river and stash him away somewhere, planning to demand ransom from Clifford. Jason tried to escape and FP shot him. He says he kept the body hidden until the police finished searching the river, then dumped Jason's body there. FP also admits he stole evidence from the sheriff's office and burned the car full of drugs. With all that, the police send him to prison. Late that night, Betty and Alice wake up to strange noises. Turns out it's Hal rummaging through papers. He confesses that he was the one who stole evidence from the investigation. But he's confused. Why did FP confess when he wasn't actually the killer? Hal finally spills everything. He and Clifford are from the same family. Their grandfathers were brothers, but after a brutal fight where Clifford's grandfather killed his own brother, the families cut all ties. That's why Jason's family never accepted his relationship with Polly. They're actually related. Alice realizes Polly's in danger staying with them, so she rushes to get her daughter out. Alice storms into the Blossoms' house and drags Polly away. The next day, Betty, Archie, and Veronica track down one of FP's friends, a guy named Join. They press him about what really happened with Jason. At first, he's cagey, but then he opens up. He says FP called him one day asking for help. Join met FP in some out-of-the-way spot and saw Jason's body lying there. FP needed help covering up the whole thing, but Join admits he never actually saw FP kill Jason. He also reveals that FP hid a bag with Jason's stuff in a remote place. The three friends go there and find Jason's shirt inside. By chance, Betty stumbles onto something wild, a flash drive hidden in a shirt. On it, a video that blows everything open. It's Jason's murder and the killer is his own dad. Turns out, Clifford wasn't just a regular father, he ran the biggest drug operation in town. Jason found out, freaked out, and never got the chance to tell anyone. Clifford killed his own son to keep his secret buried. Afterward, Clifford storms over to FP, drags him into the mess and makes him help hide the crime. Clifford even hid the murder weapon in FP's house, then threatens to kill Jughead unless FP takes the fall. FP confesses not for himself but to protect his kid. But the truth always leaks out. When the cops show up to arrest Clifford, they find him dead. He's already taken his own life. FP's name gets cleared for the murder, but he's still stuck in jail for lying and covering up evidence. Mayor McCoy steps in, offers him a deal, give up the names of the drug dealers he worked with and maybe he walks sooner. If not, he's looking at 20 years. She gives him some time to think. Life in Riverdale starts to settle down. Cheryl softens up and apologizes to her classmates for everything. But then Jughead gets blindsided. A social worker tells him they're looking for a foster family and if FP won't cooperate and stays locked up, Jughead doesn't get a choice. He pleads with his dad to talk, but FP just can't. He says he's made too many mistakes, tells Jughead to forgive him and says goodbye. Meanwhile, Betty uncovers a secret of her own. Her mom's been hiding the fact that Betty has an older brother given up for adoption when Alice and Hal were just kids themselves. Alice has carried that guilt for years, hoping she'd get a chance to make things right. Betty is shaken, but suddenly she understands her mom a whole lot better. Then, another shock. Cheryl disappears and word gets out that she's trying to end her life. Everyone searches for her and they find her standing by the river, ready to jump. They rush to stop her, but she dives in anyway. Archie doesn't hesitate, he jumps in and pulls her out just in time. The crew tries to move forward. Betty and Jughead grow closer, working through everything together. Archie and Veronica decide it's time to make their relationship official. Cheryl, still haunted by memories of Jason and Clifford, sets fire to the family mansion. She just wants to erase her past. But Riverdale isn't done with drama. One morning, Archie grabs breakfast with his dad at the diner. Out of nowhere, a masked man bursts in and shoots Fred before running off. Archie cradles his father, shattered. And that's where Season 1 leaves us, on a cliffhanger you can't forget. If you liked this recap of Riverdale's first season, stick around and subscribe. There's plenty more coming your way.